Cardboard. Incredibly strong and relatively cheap, cardboard is one of my absolute favorite materials. It's definitely not without its drawbacks though. Much like paper, when cardboard gets wet, it kind of sogs out and loses all of its rigidity. Despite this, hundreds of people every year get together for cardboard boat races, where they assemble boats made out of nearly the worst material imaginable. Naturally, I wanted to give it a try, and to spice things up, I wanted to add a motor. For this one, I was going to need a rival, so I emailed my challenge to fellow YouTuber Peter Sripol, who surprisingly actually said yes. Race day was in less than 2 weeks, which meant that I needed to get to work and stat. I was just about to go to VidCon, which meant I would have less than 5 days to actually construct the boat. Before doing my boat design, I wanted to better understand the properties of cardboard, so while I was at home, I made a couple of laminates to test out what would work the best. So after doing some research into cardboard boats, everyone kind of agrees that you need to do some kind of a glue up using cardboard. Some designs end up using glue ups where you crisscross all of your layers. In theory, it should make it sturdier, but I don't know how much sturdier. So I'm gonna cut a couple of pieces off of this box. Then I wanna glue them up. I'm gonna try one that's cross-hatched, with the layers crisscrossed on top of each other. But depending on how these results turn out, it'll influence how I decide to build the final boat. So it's been about 24 hours, and now all 3 of these glue ups that we made are dry. Start with the one where the slats run lengthwise. It's still strong in the direction that we intended it to be strong in. The one thing you will notice though is that this actually bends pretty easily in that direction. Basically, cardboard's strength is in these ridges. It's a lot harder to bend it this way than it is to bend it this way. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the one with all of the sheets running horizontally. This one is pretty strong. If anything, it's even a little bit stronger if I bend it in the middle. Our third contestant is the ones that are crisscrossed. So while it's still just as strong in this direction, it's also a lot stronger in terms of not bending in either one of these 2 directions. Now that I knew what I could expect from my laminates, I was ready to draft up a design. To be honest, I didn't actually know what the design of the boat was going to look like until now. Over the past week while I've been out of town at VidCon, I've been refining the boat design in my head, and I think I finally got something that'll make sense. This is the design of the main part of the boat. The plan is to basically have what looks like cardboard 2x4s running along the edges of the boat. By making this super rigid internal structure, my weight would be distributed evenly along the bottom of the boat. The whole thing's gonna be about 4 feet long by 2 feet wide and about 1 foot high. Now, part of the challenge for me in facing Peter is obviously our difference in resources. I budgeted about $200 total for this boat, motor included. I don't know what kind of a motor they're gonna get, but I've decided to power mine with a weed whacker. I'm just not sure how fast I'll go. I picked up some scrap cardboard from some lady on Facebook Buy. That was all free, but I was gonna need some big sheets to construct the support beams. So I started calling around. Sometimes apparently you can get large pieces of cardboard or cardboard boxes from stores that have a lot of big stuff come in, like appliance stores, and I'm thinking probably even electronic stores like maybe Best Buy. So let's call them up. Well, that's a bust. I could try Sears, if those even still exist. Oh, Costco.
We're calling Costco Wholesale. How can I help you?
I'm looking for some large pieces of cardboard, just scrap cardboard.
The thing is, like, we have excess cardboard. The thing is, we reuse those.
All right, let's try Sam's Club.
Thanks for calling Sam's Club.
I'm looking for some large pieces of cardboard.
They actually discard those right away. We have a compactor that we use that we discarded.
Is there any way that I could come and like intercept them before you put them in the compactor?
To be honest with you, there's no way of determining that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Target. And I'm working on a project and
We don't have really any right now.
let's try Walmart.
Thanks for calling Walmart.
I'm looking for some scrap cardboard.
Well, you can come in after 10 o'clock.
I'll come in at 10:30 then. None of them seem to have any. And Walmart, which said they did have some, wasn't even a good size if I had wanted it. If I couldn't get the stuff for free, it meant I was gonna have to buy it. I called up the place that the Idea Foundry usually uses, but they were all out. So I looked around Columbus for other places and eventually found a spot called Buckeye Boxes.
Good afternoon, Buckeye Boxes.
I was wondering if I could just buy some kind of like stock sheets of corrugated cardboard.
Black corrugated or just one the actual box?
Just flat corrugated sheet.
Yes, you can.
That's amazing. Now, it seemed like I was gonna have to compromise because while I could get the cardboard there, I wasn't sure how I was gonna get it in my car and I didn't want to pay to ship it. But as it turns out, when I got there, they were happy to cut it for me. These are 4 feet long.
You need a
So it's 4 foot by 4 foot. Right. So there are tiny holes in this table. Does this suction the cardboard to the table? It's like reverse air hockey.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. This stuff is gonna be like hard as a rock by the time we're done with it. Like, I mean, it is gonna be really solid. After gluing up the long pieces, it was time to start on the short ones. I started by calculating how many pieces I need. And when I figured out it was like 228, I was shocked to say the least. 228. Just when I thought the hard part was out of the way, too. Originally, I was gonna cut them by hand, but due to the sheer number, I decided that it would be faster and more efficient to cut them on the laser, so that's what I ended up doing. I still had to do all the prep work of getting the tape off the cardboard and cutting the pieces down to a usable size, but at least this made the actual harvesting of the cardboard rectangles much more manageable. After that, I spent the next 4 hours gluing up pieces of cardboard before getting to work on the motor. Less than 12 hours before I go to Peter's place, and I still have to put together my motor. Luckily, I've got a plan. Some guy online made a mod thing for a weed whacker.
Hey, today I'm going to be showing y'all a little video on how to build a weed eater outboard.
You can take one of these standard Boland's weed whackers.
And I noticed that this prop and this weed eater fit completely together exactly the way they're supposed to.
You take your weed whacker, you take the front part off, and you just stick it right on the front there. Our dude online said he planned on using some thread locker.
So before you put this in the water, you definitely need to put some Loctite down on the bolt.
I wasn't sure that this was gonna be a hundo P. In anticipation of that, I'm gonna put it on when I'm sure that I've got it. The only really challenging part of the motor was the throttle. The original throttle cable had gotten kind of messed up, so we had to make it work using a different kind of throttle cable that we just kind of found laying around the basement back home. I fitted it to the trigger using a piece of brass tubing as a makeshift cable crimp. You can see it moves that little tiny lever down there, and that is what controls the amount of throttle you're giving it. With the pre-work completed, it was time to head to Peter's. I packed my car, my bags, and set out first thing in the morning. To be real, I am a little bit concerned for what their boat is. I think they may have blown me completely out of the water.
Get out of my damn shop. He'll have you over here. This is typically how YouTube shoots go. I just make Sam do all the work and I just take them out.
After checking out the shop, I grabbed a big piece of cardboard and got right to work. Since I did a lot of the work in advance, most of the construction was pretty straightforward. I started by measuring out my piece of cardboard and then got straight into cutting. I began by scoring the sides and made sure that they would fold properly. Then, I trimmed the front of the boat to make the bow rise about 4 inches higher than the stern, hoping to make the boat glide through the water more easily. Next, I test fit my cardboard beams, and I was really glad I did. I ended up needing to trim just a bit off of each of my reinforcement blocks, but the chop saw made short work of this.
And it was cardboard and now it's dust.
Once everything was cut to size, I started hot gluing the pieces into the boat. First, I glued in the side pieces, then I glued in all of the connector blocks, and finally, I glued in the central beam. I then sealed up the front of the hull and got to work on the back. The back looked pretty good already, but to make it easier to mount the motor and to help support the back of the boat, I added a 2-ply reinforcing wall. Then I called it a night and came back fresh the next day. Yo, all right, so it is Saturday now. My dad has actually come here to help me film, say hello. The next thing to figure out was how we were gonna mount the motor, but before I could do that, I needed to finish up the outside of the hull. I wanted the outside of the boat to be 3 layers thick for strength and rigidity, so we cut additional layers of cardboard to size using the current boat as a reference. Then we glued the layers together with wood glue and sealed the seams using reinforced paper tape. We're 3 layers deep. Hello. I'm feeling pretty good about this boat. I think now we just gotta mount the motor.
Have you fired it up since you've been home?
No, we still gotta put like thread locker on it and everything. All right, we don't know if this runs, so we're gonna hope for the best. That should work. Ow. What? It electrocuted me. Scared the crap out of me and nearly dropped the thing. So this switch has these giant exposed contacts. When you grab it to turn it off and you touch both contacts, it just goes through you, which is bad. Let's go put this guy back together. Getting electrocuted by the motor was not fun. So we covered the contacts with hot glue and then got to work on the mount. Using a hole saw, we cut holes in the blocks we mounted through which we could run these pieces of PVC pipe. We test fit the pieces, sealed it all up, and finally mounted the motor. With the motor successfully mounted, we grabbed a nearby piece of wood and zip tied it to the weed whacker's outer casing to act as a makeshift tiller. So I should be able to, oh yeah, wicked. Now, originally I hadn't planned to add a keel, but as the boat was shaping up, it seemed like it might be a good idea, so we decided to add one. We stuck the keel on the boat and then finally covered the entire boat in a very generous coating of waterproof marine varnish. With the build now complete, we let the boat dry overnight, and the next day we headed out to race. It had cooled down significantly from the previous day, so it was the perfect day for a race.
How do you feel about your odds into today's boat race?
I know your boat's a lot more sturdier. I think you're gonna go slower because I've seen these, they don't go too fast. Mine might go faster, but my coupler and everything else might just completely just crap bricks.
Pretty optimistic, would you say though? I feel like
it's pretty good.
I don't know, I'm pretty nervous to be honest. The boat looks pretty sturdy to me, but I'm really not sure how much in the way of speed I'm gonna get. Peter's motor is pretty intense, and so honestly, even if my boat is a lot sturdier, I think I'm gonna get dusted pretty quick. But I'm not gonna go down without a fight. It was shaping up to be quite the epic race. Peter put his boat in the water, but while he was testing it out, tragedy struck.
We have about 15 minutes of drive time.
Yeah, we need to race now if we're gonna race.
yeah, I think we gotta go pronto. I don't want to win de facto. I feel like I can't just do one victory lap. That seems a little bit sad.
After the capsize, we needed to get my boat in the water and stat. I climbed aboard, mounted the motor, and then
You gotta shut that prop down probably. It's overloading.
Yeah.
It doesn't have power to turn it, yeah, so you gotta stick the prop down.
turns out the weed whacker couldn't handle the prop at all. Just not enough torque.
And who sold the freaking size that for weed eater?
Yeah, it's not meant for a weed eater, really. Instead, we have trusted the wisdom of a 10-year-old YouTube video. All right, round 2.
All right, let's try this again.
Your back end going.
I can't steer anymore!
All right, so I mean, I was honestly pretty surprised with the results. I thought I was gonna get completely totaled after the capsize, which was very unfortunate.
30 minutes of pre-soaking after that. So that kind of like, that gave me super disadvantage. Because yours actually was really freaking sturdy. I'm really surprised how well that
I was a little bit surprised too. And I also thought the motor was gonna do way better than it did.
Yeah, it kind of sucked. But yeah, probably the best thing were to take my motor and put it in your boat. That would yield.
Oh, I think that would have been really great. I think overall, I'm pretty stoked with the results. And hey, thanks for accepting the challenge. If you like this one and you want to see more stuff like this, I made a paper boat to try to see if I could go a mile or something a little different. I tried to see if I could survive a real sword fight in pop tab chainmail. So you can check either of those right there. If you want to help support the channel, links are down below. And thanks for watching.